Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new guide in how to keybind your World of Warcraft character or characters to have the best synergy within your account, within your characters, to get the most results out of your characters for both PvE and PvP. Now I'm going to be showing some clips of battlegrounds and whatnot while I kind of talk through and show you what I have laid out, so I can kind of explain to the best effect what works best for me and how it can help you as well. So first off, what I'm going to say is Warlords of Draenor, I wouldn't say dumbed down a lot of spells, but they removed a lot of useless spells that nobody really used anyway, which is fantastic in my honest opinion. So what that means, and I picked what I think is a relatively difficult class to keybind in the Feral Druid, or any Druid for that matter, because you've got the most utility in terms of other form spells to worry about. So one thing I'm going to talk about right off the bat is synergizing your characters together is so important. So for example, if you have a move that heals in one character, Rejuvenation for example, whatever Rejuvenation-esque spell that is on your other character, so for a Paladin, instead of Rejuvenation at Q, like you can see in the bottom here, maybe put Word of Glory at Q, and then I have my Healing Touch at E, maybe put your Flash of Light at E, maybe put your Holy Light at E. Now that only counts for Retribution and Protection because obviously if you're Holy you're going to be using your 1 through 5, for example. So what I'm going to talk about first is attacking. Now a lot of people do this differently, and this, like I said, your playstyle is going to differ a lot from mine. I'm going to give you what works for me. You can take it and adjust your own playstyle so that it fits you best. For me, I have a broken left pinky that I cannot extend out to Control, Alt, and Shift that well, so I really only use a Shift modifier. I very rarely use anything else because when I put my hand on the keyboard, my pinky magically lays on Shift right away, so I kind of just use Shift for my sprinting. So let's start with that. My sprints. All of my sprints are Shift and mouse wheel. I have, Shift mouse wheel up is dash, Shift mouse wheel down is Stampeding War, and Shift middle click is Dark Flight. Obviously, not every class and race has 3 sprint abilities, but again, when you can group things together in one simple task, it makes it easier to know in a tight situation where it is and what you're using. So I know that if I hit Shift, and basically, if I'm in an arena and I'm just trying to get the heck away, I don't care which one I end up hitting for the most part. I mean, there are certain things where better situations fit better spells. But if I'm just frantically trying to get away because I'm about to die and I really don't care at the moment, I'm just going to Shift and mouse wheel like crazy until something activates. Obviously, if you're on a cooldown, that's a different story, but you can start to build in your character and realize what's going to work for you and how grouping together can really help out in basically anything. My attacks, I use 1 through 5. I can't really reach 6, and for every character I've ever had, my charge ability, if they have one, is the little button to the left of the 1 key. So people use that as attacks, and you can too if you need that extra button. But personally, that's my charge ability. So, if I don't know if I can do NPCs. No, I can't. So, 1 through 5 is attacks. Obviously, some classes have more attacks, some classes have less attacks. Or heals, for example. Whatever's going to work for you is going to be what, is going to be great. He's super excited to be here today, and I'm super excited to have you guys here today. I just wanted to point that out. He kind of led me right into that, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so beyond that, I use a Logitech mouse, which is basically the Logitech version of the Razer Naga. You can use a Naga, you can use none of them. But for me, I find that the button configuration of having those extra 12 buttons works. The bottom row of my mouse is always targeting for arenas, and you'll see that in my footage that I show. A lot of ease of use in terms of targeting arena enemies and partners is going to be in your keybinds. So I only do 2s, I rarely do 3s, and when I do 3s I change it up a little bit. But my bottom left mouse button is target arena enemy 1, my bottom middle row mouse button is target arena enemy 2, and my bottom right mouse button is target party member. So if I'm, if I get my 5 combo points out, and I have a free healing touch. You know, I can just hit bottom right mouse button, get my target, heal him up, and since I have the talent where Geoscenarius also heals me, it also heals me, obviously. So it just makes it nice, and it's something that synergizes really well with my playstyle and how I play my character, and how it helps me survive better in some tight situations. So one thing that I'm going to point out is keep group things together in groups. So I know I've expressed that a lot. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to, though. So my extra abilities, my cooldowns, my skull bash, alright, so whatever interrupt ability your character has, put at a button that your fingers naturally lie on. So, for example, when I put my hand on my mouse, the middle mouse button, the second row middle button, is where my thumb goes first. So that button is my interrupt. So if I need to interrupt, I can make a macro to, you know, if I'm not jumping, I can use my thumb, get Alt, and then hit Alt and boom, middle mouse button, and my focus target is going to be automatically interrupted. I don't have to click the guy, I don't have to, you know, I can, worst case scenario, I'll use that bottom row targeting to target the character, but even that is going to be faster than if you don't do any specific keybinds at all right now, is going to help you and be a heck of a lot faster. So your extra abilities, find places that work for you. I don't really like to stretch far on my keyboard. I've always used T for Savage Roar, so that's why that is there. It's just a comfortable thing that I know is going to be there. I've had it for a while, and I kind of watched Sodapoppin's video on his Feral Druid keybinds, and I kind of got that from him, but it feels comfortable for me, and it works good. So, like I said, my healing abilities, since they're all instant cast, and with the new Warlords of Draenor talents and perks and abilities, I can use it all from cat form. Q and E. My survival abilities, my healing abilities are all right at the tips of my fingertips. If I'm running away, you know, I can just Q, oh, Savage Roar to get my combo points exhausted and get a free healing touch. Boom. You know, there's so many situations where having those right there is going to be beneficial to you. And it's really, really going to help you a lot to have healing spells or survival abilities at the touch of your fingertips. You don't have to reach to Y to get survival instincts. You know, it's number button 1, which is right where my thumb is anyway. You know, my Mighty Bash, number button 2. And my mouse buttons beyond Skull Bash are kind of just whatever I felt would fit. So Prowl for me was Q, or no, Trinket was always Q on my characters. But then I took a break at the end of Mists of Pandaria and started, you know, probably a month and a half ago on this character. I realized that both Q and E for my healing abilities was better, so I just switched over my Trinket to number mouse button 8, and it fits me, and now I'm completely comfortable for it. Now there's going to be a learning curve with any sort of keybind change, and when I redid my character, I wasn't really too concerned as to that because I knew that I would fix it and that I would get used to it. So my cooldown abilities, basically, I would say, or CC, or anything along those lines is going to be on my mouse button. Obviously, if you can reach, you can use control modifiers, alt modifiers, things like that. Now, beyond that, I sometimes like to call spells and put them on keys that they're named after. So my root ability is on R. My Tiger's Fury. Fury starts with F. That key is on F. Usually I'll put my Fairy Fire on F, but Tiger Fury I feel fits better there, and it's just kind of boom, you know, it's a 30-second cooldown, and yet the only time I'm really using Fairy Fire is on a stealth opponent, or if I really have extra time to get that extra, you know, damage. I don't know if it really reduces armor anymore. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, I'm only using it against rogues and stealth classes to begin with. So beyond that, my swipe was at Shift E, but when I switched to Ysera's Gift to Cenarian Ward, I wanted to do something similar to E or Q for my Cenarian Ward. So Shift E is really easy. I already use E for Healing Touch, so I know that it's going to be a healing ability. And I don't use Swipe as much as I would use Thrash, because Thrash at least adds a dot. So Thrash for me was kind of just a, oh, I have an extra space, let's kind of put it there type of thing. I needed a keybind for that, and I knew that I could put it there. I don't really have Moonfire or Wrath or Hurricane keybound. If I'm really that desperate, I can click on that, and I know I'll get a lot of grief for that, but I'm really not going to be that terribly picky. So one other thing that I wanted to comment on is the backpedal ability. On all of my characters, I remove my backpedal ability. Why? Because if you're backpedaling, if you PvP, you will be considered a noob, and that you are not good. So what you can do is put that ability, put that key, put S, whatever your quote-unquote getaway spell is. So, for example, on my warrior, heroic leap, you just hit S, click, boom. On my hunter, disengage. You need to get away from an enemy, turn around, click disengage, boom, it's right there. So basically, whatever ability I would be using to either backpedal already or get away from an enemy better, I put it there. So, for example, my druid, Typhoon. I need to get away from something, I just click Typhoon, boom, goes away, and I'd basically be backpedaling from that position anyway. So that's one thing that I found works easier. It's just you have to mentally associate with muscle memory. When you think of what you need to do, you know where it's going to be on any character, and that's why it's so important to synergize specific buttons with specific numbers and keys on your keyboard. If I need to sprint, if I need to, increase my movement speed, I know shift mouse wheel. If I need to heal, I know it's Q or E, or sometimes a shift modifier E. If I need to, pop some cooldowns or use some CC, I know it's going to be on my mouse. If I need to interrupt, I know it's going to be right where my thumb is. If I need to attack, it's 1 through 5. If I need to root, R stands for root. So whenever you build up your character, you're going to have to think about, when I think of this ability, where do I think of it, type of thing. And it doesn't really make sense when I say it, but when you keybind your character, and if you really take the time to think about where your buttons are going to be, it'll really make sense to you very early on. Like I said, when I group things together, Q and E are heals. If I'm on any character and I have a healing ability, and if the character doesn't have a healing ability, maybe I'll use a defensive ability. Warriors don't really have heals, but maybe I could put, parry on Q, or, frenzy regeneration on E, or whatever abilities I feel would fit in that location, I would definitely use for that. And it's just easier to do that because then mentally, no matter what character you're on, no matter what character you play, what class you play, if you associate what you need to do with keys on a keyboard, you will always mentally have that instinct to hit that button no matter what you do. For example, if you are leveling a character and you have done Arcane Shot at 2 the whole time, but now you have Aim Shot, or whatever, I'm just kind of throwing something out there, and, Arcane Shot fits better at 3 because now you have Thrill the Hunt, and you don't use Aim Shot as much, so you use 2 now because 3 is a little bit easier for you maybe to get to. When you change that, it takes a little bit of time to get used to because you're so mentally used to Arcane Shot being 2. So it's kind of that same effect, and like I said, it's confusing to hear, but when you get into it and you change your character's keybinds, it really significantly helps. And like I said, if you don't have a mouse, you can definitely, so maybe you put all your CC abilities at Alt, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe all of your cooldown abilities, instead of just one big macro, Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do different things, Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your Trinket Prowl, remove corruption, things like that. You can get used to your characters and really start to have seamless transitions between them, and as much as this game is about being different every time you play, you can start to really feel as if you're playing the same character. For example, Super Smash Brothers, similar characters have similar abilities on similar button combinations. It's the same principle. When you're on a character in Super Smash Brothers and you need a smash ability, you know what button you're going to hit on any character. And it makes Super Smash Bros. Great and easy to switch from character to character. If you can do that in World of Warcraft, your gameplay will increase, guaranteed. So guys, I hope that you learned something here from this. I hope that this was entertaining to you in some regard. I hope that, I can hear some feedback in terms of what you feel works best for you, or if you thought something I said would hit you home, or if something I said didn't really quite make it. Like I said, this is how I play my character, and characters, and you don't have to take any of this advice. This is just a possibility to help you get better control of your characters and enjoy the game a little bit better. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.